Okay, it's 4:45 a.m. It is Saturday, December 7th. I'll get the recorder on the meter, so I'm just gonna leave it on there for as long as it's on. In fact, I think I'll just keep this going till like around 5. Just keep it documented, so each time they have this on, I'll start submitting it the vid. Now then, I guess I will give some dialogue to this. there's times that like I would wake up like real early in the morning to this, and at the same time that's happening, I could like literally my gangs, like some of the gang suckers that I got will be like literally up around this time. As you can see, it's like real early. So it'll be times like that that I'll actually wake up. So basically, this is what I was getting at, how these people's lives are basically just fixated towards a single individual's life. And it's more to the point to where they don't have much of a life of their own at all. And then you got to just ask yourself, like how does one even look back at even and the thing is you can't look back at something like this and actually view that as a life that was worth living. It doesn't even matter how much money you're making. I mean, what good is it if you can't even live your life, you know? Not to mention, if you're living a life of torture, I've noticed that like a lot of other like seniors, they have these weird symptoms that they have. Like they'll have certain things such as Alzheimer's or some other stuff. It makes me wonder if that is actually a actual normal regular disease that actually at least I think it's a disease that they call it. I think it's, or maybe just some type of mental illness that happens. It makes you wonder, considering what this technology is capable of, if that is always a legitimate situation, or if they're trying to get these elderly people to forget what they've known for so long. Because I've seen some videos to where the elderly would go back and literally try to warn the unsuspecting public of what these people have been doing. um and it's crazy, like you want to be able to tell like people about the situation, but at the same time, like, as far as people who are already involved, you're feared that getting them even farther involved would actually bring more of a threat towards their situation. So it's not a very easy scenario to deal with this, because you want to be able to help, but at the same time, like by bringing them even farther involved, it just makes it more difficult. And the problem with that is that these, like the people you care about, like got families of their own and all that. So it's in the end, like it seems like they're primarily after you. So it's just a very great unfortunate phenomena, you know. And considering that just about everyone in the unsuspecting public is exposed to this, it's an obvious attempt at experimentation. So I honestly question like everybody who's technically been incarcerated, because it seems like this technology has the ability to boost stress. It has the ability to boost different and twist people's different desires into a particular aspect, and it has the ability to actually rob them of their own person. No joke. It has the ability to actually do that. I know that because I've experienced it, and I think there have been several. No, I don't even think I actually believe there's been several attempts at this when I was younger, and it resulted in me mostly just passing out. Now, that would say something a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. I was thinking maybe been like diabetes or something when I was younger, because I was eating a lot of junk food. I will admit that, but since I changed my diet around, it's more healthy. So I'm not eating all that processed stuff. I'm not eating all that processed sugar, and I'm sticking to a more healthier diet. And it's just crazy because the same thing would happen. Like even now, even since I changed my diet, and that's what led me to realize that it wasn't so much as my diet, it was so much as what this technology was doing. The the uh the things that have been happening, I could only imagine how much my mother have been, has was going through, and I've desperately been trying to find multiple ways to help people out. As far as I actually am concerned, I did want to go over one little aspect of this. There is a way to get this stuff off of you. It's what they do is they got you genetically all they basically got bots implanted into your body pretty much. And I believe I believe this stuff it gets into your system by like bad type of processed meats or whatever, and it's got this and these processed meats got these synthetic compounds in them. A lot of people have been finding that stuff in it. They found it in chicken, they found it in beef, and all of it is coming from these really generic looking processed, overly oversized products of meat and all other kinds of stuff. And it's not even just that. It's coming from the rain. There's stuff they got put in the rain that's getting on people's skin and all that. There's stuff in the water system that they've been putting in there. There's stuff in our again. There's stuff in our food, and this is the stuff that we are submitted to around on a daily basis. So this stuff is getting inside our bodies on the daily. So even if you were able to get it out, it's just gonna get right back in, to be honest. But the uh the way this stuff is staying in the body is basically um by two compounds of fungi. Again, one is Magellan and the other one is Candida, and they're using both of these in contrast to basically allow these bots to remain in the body, because you got to understand these things are of a foreign substance. The body is going to be able to understand that these things don't belong in there. So it's gonna naturally eject that. But at the same time, with it being able to hang on to something other than, the body's structure, it allows it to stay in the system. That's why certain things that you would eat, such as like a colon cleanse tablet, a whenever you drink cranberry juice, that stuff also naturally helps you clean out your kidneys. Doing stuff like that helps you get this stuff out of your system. But yeah, this technology is used to basically twist both the personality and the interest of the individual, without them so much as even barely understanding it. When a person is unaware, their whole personality can be warped without them even realizing it. If they're completely unaware, but if they are aware, they have the ability to resist and fight back against this. But it's just that unsuspecting situation that they don't know. Um, and this is the same stuff that even children are being exposed to. This is the same stuff as they're being exposed to. Even people who are even unborn are exposed to this. So even before you're even born, you're exposed to this. So a lot of the ill behavior that happens, you actually gotta wonder, is that really your own behavior playing through, or is that basically the manifestation of this chemical byproduct that we're being exposed to, that's causing these manipulative changes and abnormal changes in people's behavior? One other thing, oh wow, looks like they raised it, because at first it was at like three something, but now it's at four. That's a good way for you to tell the growth. I always want to keep this documented down and recorded. That way you can see the different elevation levels as to when they raise it, to when they lower it, when they turn it off, when they turn it high, or turn it low, or whatever, and etc. But yeah, like the situation is just it's gotten crazy. I gave some information methods for people that try to protect their information, because what they would do is they would hack your phones, they would hack your equipment, and they would actually go in there and start deleting evidence that you have stockpiled. They would do that, and you got to ask yourself, like, as soon as you're ready to get ready to make a case about this, and you're ready to go to court about it, I mean, what are you going to go to court with if they deleted all your evidence? You won't have any kind of evidence to use at all because they deleted it. And I've had that situation happen, and I've heard other people going through the exact same thing. Again, I'm recommending SD cards for people to use. Just use those, and you'll be able to stockpile your evidence. You'll be able to keep it to where they won't be able to mess with it. Keep a electronic device offline at all times. Don't even connect it to the net. Keep it on airplane mode at all times. Don't even turn that off. Just do that, and you should be fine. The only time, even if they can see the IP address, they technically can't really mess with the system unless it's connected to an online server or unless they get physical access to it. So if it's never connected to the net, then they would have to get physical access to it, and that's the only way. Um, I've also gone as far as over as the chargers, how they mess with your chargers. If you leave them out and about, they will actually either replace or they will siphon in your charger with malware. So it'll be in order to put a virus on it. And I'm telling you, like if they really wanted to like completely incriminate a person from based off of what I've seen, they can do it. No joke, they can definitely do it. Um, it is crazy because a lot of the stuff that I've seen, it's like they would set people up who are basically as a chemically byproduct as a result of their own experimentation. And they are aware of this. They are quite aware that people's behaviors are being altered due to this experimentation. So in the end, the real culprit is really this technology that's being used. So one has to ask, go back as far as not even before the 1980 had hit. I guarantee you, people were a lot more peaceful back then. Don't get me wrong, crime was just as crazy as it is, maybe even more crazy, but it wasn't it wasn't like this. Like none of it was. And in this cases, it seems like the death toll technically has spiked since then. But let me tell you something about this though. If you're wondering about like the human bodily structure and all that stuff, as far as like the common cold and everything like that, you gotta understand this fungi stuff. At the same time, it's there. It technically is protecting us in a way, because as far as the common cold and all that's concerned, you know how they'll convince you to try to get a flu shot. The thing about that you need to know is that that's technically more of their way of experimenting with you. When they say they want to inject these viruses directly into your body, they're doing that so they can genetically test these substances, basically using even children as guinea pigs without them even knowing it. So yeah, this is going as far back as even then. So people, even at a younger age, are being manipulated, and with what the grave direction as far as this technology has over the human mind, there's no telling what a person would end up doing to incriminate themselves based off of this by being influenced by this technology. It is really sad because it's to the point where a person doesn't really have control over their own life. And I believe that's what this whole thing actually is. It isn't the land of the free. It's basically you're only allowed as much freedom as they will allow you to have. And it's based off of freedom of expression. It's based off of freedom of true freedom of self mind. It's like even at birth, your whole mind structure is being manipulated. That's why a lot of these crimes that have happened, Gavin Long, he was a targeted individual, and I'm gonna keep bringing it up because in his cases, I think they spiked. I think he was also sedated to these directed energy weapons, and I believe that he was drove to do what he did. And if you notice on the news broadcast, they don't even want to show any videos of the guy because they're trying to cover everything up. They didn't want them seeing that he was avoiding actual citizens out there in the streets. They wanted to give the public the idea that the guy was a full blown terrorist. I'm not gonna agree what he did was right. I'm not gonna say that what he did was right, but I will say this. I will say that the major culprit is the people who implement this on its own people, and that just about as long as this stuff is in play, just about any crime that is perpetrated, I blame it solely on the organization that is sedating the stuff on us citizens. I completely blame that because the fact that people going as far back as childhood, getting flu shots. I mean, come on, think about it. People did not like they're saying like it's supposed to be for your immune system to build a antibodies. People were dying from this despite their freaking immune system, even despite medicines. People were dying from the common cold, man. So it's not the medication that's protecting you. It's the dang pathogens that they exposed you to. So I just wanted to give an awareness out about that. It is at the same time they got us exposed to this. A lot of the stuff that's going on, like it's designed to both keep us alive, but it's also designed to keep us under their control. And you got to ask yourself, if this technology is designed to do this, like why do you got people committing crime? Why are people's stress levels going up? Why is there so much violence? Why is there so much hate? If this stuff was designed to truly create a peaceful nation and all that, right? In which it does, I won't deny it has the ability to do so. But why would all of this stuff as far as anything exist, as far as any kind of crime exist at all in today's society with such a technology at their disposal? And again, I'm going in depth as far as exposure is concerned. When you're before you're even born, you got to understand the very food that your mom is eating, the very food that she's eating gets processed through her system, and it goes into the form of nutrients to the fetus, to the unborn fetus that just so happens to be yourself, right? Before you're actually born. So with all the stuff, the chemically compound stuff, everything, and this is going from as far back as stuff as like cereal. This is going back as far back as stuff with like high fructose corn syrup. This is going as far back as these heavily processed meats that have these unknown synthetic substances within them. This is stuff that you're exposed to since birth, man. So for a person who's like exposed to this stuff at a very young age, even before even being born, for freak's sake, it's like your own personality is really not your own anymore, you know? You only are yourself. You do have that general identity, but like I'm telling you, it's when I was making videos about people how they didn't have to like give into society's BS on what they would make out of them. That you don't want to give in to the false personality. You want to actually be yourself. Don't let society trick you into stealing your true identity. For that true identity is you when you're born. Even though you're being sedated with this, they can't prevent you from having your true personality, but they can convince you to throw it away if you let them. Remember, like your sole interest, even in music, like you don't have to have a sole interest in music. You can expand that interest. You can expand your interest in activities. As far as gaming, as far as sports and all that types of stuff. You can expand your interest. You can easily find new things in order to innovate yourself, in order to have more, to get more out of life. And it was a lot of subjects like these in my very old rant videos that I wish I still had recordings of because I would gladly post them. It was stuff like that that was pissing them off. And from what my experience and what I've realized, this technology is designed to both destroy to basically destroy a person's entire life in order for them to get in a state of stasis to where they can genetically alter this person's personality. So ask yourself, why would they target someone who's trying to find retribution and peace for people, but hire people who are criminally active? You got to really ask yourself about that. Why would they do that? Why would they hire people who are criminally active, breaking the law on a daily basis, by the way, in so many ways, shape, or form, even so much as to where, and again, I will mention this once more, if you are recording your perps, I'm telling you, be careful because, even though like they're always going to be recording on private property, and yes, I'm afraid it is sickening as it is, they will get away with it. That you don't want to be recording on private property unless you're in a conversation. If you're in the conversation, you're all good to go. But at the same time, this that revolves around the self consent act. But there are also laws in place in different states. Every state's law is completely different. This is just the case for my own. Other states may have to where you got to have like two people in the party to consent. Some of them may even have it to where you got to have every person in the middle of a conversation to consent. So keep in mind when you're recording on private property. This all and remember this is only for audio purposes. Both the purposes for both audio and video are completely different. So keep that in mind. When you got to understand, if you're in Walmart, a shop like Walmart, this is why I recommend people not to shop too oftenly at Walmart due to the street theater going on. When you're in Walmart, I'm telling you, for your own sake, do not record it, do not post it because you got to understand, if you go forward with this is technically on private property. And again, you cannot record a conversation that does not have anything to do with you in said video. So if you go to court and you don't do any editing, it's gonna backfire on you. So if you do have no choice but to record some audio on there, make sure you do some editing, edit out any unnecessary conversations that have nothing to do with your targeting situation, have nothing to do with anything that you're going through. But again, you got to understand, they're hiring people who are willingly going out of their way to commit crimes. So like really think about this. They're hiring people who are willing to commit crimes, even felony crimes. I've been assaulted because of some of the evidence I caught. I'll say it once more. They're hiring people who are willing to commit crimes to get rid of people who don't want to commit crimes. And this technology, it tries to influence you to commit a crime. That seems really messed up in my opinion. But that's basically the end scenario with this. It's crazy. Now, I've been recording this all the way for about a good 20, maybe like 20 minutes or so, maybe even a bit over that. And it's like 5:14, and they kept the meter between 3 something to 4, but it's gone like at first it was like from 300 to 320 or so, and it's just gone up, and it's just been spiking little by little from that to like 4. Now it's going as far as 409, and now it's going up a little bit higher, I think. No, now it looks like they lowered it. But you just gotta keep an eye out on stuff like this. I noticed that if you like try to live stream it, they will cut it off immediately. So it makes me wonder, why would they do that in if you're live streaming it? And I believe like they don't, considering the fact that that they went as far as to convince the old EMF app that I was using that actually shows I don't know how it was doing it, but it was actually telling you when they had the television stuff on and when they had the vocal stuff on. That's amazing. They were able to detect when they were using both of these things. And I'm telling you, this stuff utilizes both your eyes and ears. It uses both of these things as a means for information. For all TIs who are not currently going through this, you need to be careful because the street theater is only the first phase. I guarantee you, the whole purpose of them doing that is to get you sedated and sensitized to these directed energy weapons. I guarantee you, that's the next phase that they're gonna go for. So if you see anything unusual, anything at all, understand that that's primarily what their focus is. And I will say this: a person who was completely unaware of this organization and what they're using and what they're doing, a person who was completely unaware is a person who was even more easily to control. As far as hypnosis, as far as mind control and all that stuff is primarily easier for them because that's a person who is in a state of ignorance, who doesn't even know anything about any of this stuff. So if they were to, ended up experiencing any of this, they would only look for a more logical conclusion. They're not going to think nothing about being a target individual, especially if they don't know anything about it. And that's what I find even more weird about this because growing up, I've never seen anything about gang stalking. As far as like on the internet or anything like that, I've never seen nothing about targeted individuals, and it makes you wonder as far as to why. And that's when I realized social media tries to hide this stuff from the unsuspecting public. And if it gets to the point to where information does get to where they don't want it at, they will go as far as to hire the media. They will pay them off to do some type of either documentary on it or some type of news broadcast on it in order to basically debunk it, in order to just get, to shift the public's view of interest as to thinking that it's just basically this hyper sense of superstitious nonsense, which it really is not. It's they turned it down now. Looks like it's going as far down as they're like, oh nope, no, now it's going back into. So basically, they're just messing with the meter right now as far as is things frequencies are at. It's just going up and down right now, but it's about to hit like 520 right now. I think I'm gonna probably end this video around there. But I'm only documenting this just to show you when they're doing this. Again, I'm Maurice. I'm out here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've been out here for the last couple of years. I've had unexplained phenomena happen throughout my entire life that I couldn't explain. The blackouts that I've had, everything that has happened to me, I could not explain any of it. Even when some of my family even approached me and even told me that some of my behavior just was not like myself, I still couldn't explain this. Through my entire life, I couldn't explain it. And it wasn't until they turned this stuff up as high as they did that I started to actually become more aware. So it wasn't until then that I actually started to realize what was going on. And before then, all I know was just that I was just being stalked. And it's not even just that. Like even a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, she before, like even while I was being stalked, right? A situation happened to where while we were like in a chat, this stranger ends up walking into her home unannounced. She don't know who this person is. This dude walks in there and he just sits there and stares at her. She don't even know why this guy is staring at her. He just sits there and stares at her. She don't know who this guy is, and he walks right into her home. I believe that, and now is friends with me on Facebook. This is why I'm technically deleting Facebook because like they use stuff like that as far as contacts and everything, and they utilize this information to harass people who you're also, associated with. They use they harass people. They've gone as far as to literally cause family members of mine to lose jobs just to get to me. Does that sound that doesn't sound justified to me at all, man. It doesn't. Cuz basically they would go as far as to deprive a mother from being able to provide for her children and it attempts to get to a person who they to get a to, as an attempt to get to a target individual. If my family ever sees this, please try to understand. I don't blame you. I don't, and I would never do that. I blame the system. I blame the system that actually exposes people to this. I blame the system that does this to people. But yeah, what you need to understand is my friend. She's not even in this. She's not even in the states. She's in another country, and they did this. She's all the way out there in a whole other country, and they pulled a stunt like that. And I couldn't. And at the time, I still couldn't make heads or tails of it because I didn't even think it was related to me. But as soon as this stuff kicked off, when it did, as far as my directed energy attacks, that was the real big kicker. But until then, like all I knew was that I was just being like stalked, and I thought it was more of a personal matter as far as the bad neighborhood I was living in, and as far as the job. But it was getting to the point that where like the same thing was happening at both my job, and it was happening also in the neighborhood, and I couldn't make heads or tails. It was like people were just trying their hardest to paint this picture of me. And I'm like, no freaking way, man. Like the same stuff happening in one location was happening in another. The other thing I was going over was the sagging bit. The thing what you don't understand about sagging, I believe it's a trick attempt to turn people out. The whole obsession with with and this should be an appropriate way to say it, with ass is another method that they're using to turn people out. They're trying to get people fixated on certain things. It just doesn't make sense as far as things like this are consistent of. I can honestly say that I was able to understand what was really being played here. And when it comes to this, and then you got to look at this from an incarceration point of view as well. You got people who have that particular aspect in mind as far as interest. That brings up a lot of questions as far as the behavior that goes behind that. Now, this doesn't mean that every guy who who's primarily arousal who generates around that is like that. No, but I'm just basically stating that they're using stuff like that as a means to basically turn people out. If you're a target individual and you're going through certain types of different scenarios, you gotta understand whatever they're doing, whatever they're generating, whatever they're portraying, whatever they're projecting, and whatever they're basically trying to get you sensitized to is the sole interest of what they want your mindset to be fixated on. And that's the exact same thing that these unfortunate not even unfortunate, but these people, these goons who are out there who are being paid off are basically trying to get your mind fixated off of. They want to get your mind fixated onto that thing because they want to convert you into that. That is the sole purpose of this. Um, I came across a PDF and I couldn't post it. I still have the PDF, but I couldn't post it because they kept interrupting it. And what this guy was going over was there's several methods to fight back against this in that PDF. I believe the guy's name was a Fabian or Fabian, um, and this guy was a subject of experimentation. The fact that he even still had his memories from back then, it was surprising. But for some reason, like I've had my situation to where like I've been kept in a state of unknowing, as I mentioned before, throughout my entire life, to where like I just didn't know what was going on, and it was so bad to where like it was literally little to no information that was being given. I literally got lucky with some of the stuff that I learned, but every time I tried to learn something, it was like I was under huge, threat. And now I'm seeing just how much my mind has developed from all the knowledge that I've already got now. And honestly, from a lot of the stuff that I've actually seen people go through and seen people use, I've been able to come up with methods for them to make these things more effective. I've been able to give them even newer ideas as far as how to deal with their gang stalkers. I instinctively knew, wasn't even sensitized to this stuff, no matter how hard they tried. And this is going back before I even knew what gang stalking was. Somehow I instinctively knew how to handle this. And what I mean by this is I knew that certain things they were doing out on the work field was illegal. I knew that some of the things that they were acting off was it was in bad taste and all that type of stuff. And I instinctively knew the type of people that avoid. I just never hung around certain people, and I always mostly just kept to myself. And it's not that I wasn't unwilling to not really get to know people. It's just that I just knew that these people just didn't have any good intentions. They didn't. They would smile in your face, but as soon as you're gone, they would talk a whole lot of crap. They would talk a whole lot of crap. They were two-faced. And I mean, at least have the decency to say what you mean to a person's face, but like to say it behind their back. I'm sorry, but I don't care how hard a person tries to play out. That's a coward's way out right there. That's a coward. A person who can't even speak their mind to a person's face is a coward. And I'm telling you, I'd be more willing to speak my mind to them if they wouldn't so darn manipulative. And what I mean by manipulative, they will take an honest to God situation and they will collaborate it into something that they can use against you. And again, I've had a moment to where I caught a woman recording me on private property. I pointed her out. I posted a complaint, and she tried to say that I approached her in an aggressive manner, under which I know for a fact I didn't. I went nowhere near her, and I went straight to the office to make a complaint. The only thing I did was I spoke out and pointed to the fact that she did get busted, but then I started to understand that this company was constantly covering these people's behinds, man.